Testing, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Mr. Colina, you may resume.
We must ask, when will the legislation stop protecting rock miners and do their job, which is the protection of the governed? We thank this group for the work that you are doing, in particular Chair Miguel Martinez, who for years has foretold the inevitable. Constant exposure to tremors will, in the end, affect our properties, put our lives in jeopardy, and cost property owners thousands of dollars in repair, replacement, and maintenance. We have had enough. What are we prepared to do? Thanks for listening. These again are public comments from Esperanza Reynolds.
All right, is there any other public comments? All right, public comments closed now. The previous meeting's minutes.
They're attached with the agenda for the meeting of June 21st. So I would make a motion to adopt those meeting minutes.
So we got I don't have the meeting.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 5, reviewing old business. We have the status report from the subcommittee regarding the blasting bike ride, the rally, and legal review.
So subsequent to the prior meeting of June 21st, we've had 2 subcommittee meetings. And at those meetings, primarily on the blasting bike ride, we've made a lot of progress on both budget items and a date. So at the last meeting, which took place last Wednesday, we agreed to a date of September 25th at 9 a.m. for a blasting bike ride, and that the timeline that we believe is doable with what we need from the council and to set up with the police department. And we also agreed to a budget for the police requirement pursuant to our meeting with the district commander of $780. So that would be the blasting bike ride. We also discussed the potential rally that we've set 2 potential dates, which would be in the first 2 weekends of December. And we also discussed the need to propose a budget now to the council for that. We don't have a line item budget for that, but we proposed $1,500. So those were the primary decisions that were agreed to by the subcommittee, which would be to approve a blasting bike ride happening on September 25th at 9 a.m. and a budget of $780 for that matter, and then approve a blasting day rally, which we need to coordinate and have more meetings about for either the first weekend or second weekend of December, and a budget of $1,500 for that, and request that at the next council meeting for those budgetary items and approval for those 2 events.
So as far as the line items and the individual amounts, can you repeat that, please?
So it's $780 for the blasting bike ride, and that is for the 3 officers required at their rate at 4-hour minimum.
Is there a way to possibly instead of 3, get 2? Like we had talked about, or
Yeah, the
just simply
commander was
implement
pretty
it right
set on 3. We said a 30 to 40 attendance, could potentially be more. We actually will need to speak with him on the max amount that 3 will do, and that's what we're going to limit attendance to. But we discussed that. He was pretty set. It's a 3 officer minimum. He doesn't, our route too, the route, actually, that's another matter. We discussed and approved the route, which we need approval on as well. Even though our route doesn't go through many main thoroughfares, he was adamant on 3.
All right, the 780 and the remainder.
The remainder 1,500 is a budget for the rally, the blasting rally that we want to have closer to the beginning of the Tallahassee session in December, and that's just a budget we believe we can work with being able to promote it. And if we need to have specific rentals or things of that nature and permits, we believe that budget will get it done.
I'd like to add, if I may,
Sure.
something that's come up regarding for numbers is that there've been a lot of people have been contacting me, and there's been a lot of talk about the virtual or hybrid meetings. It's understanding that the town doesn't have a budget item at this time for conducting these type of meetings, similar to the council meetings, where you could do the hybrid format. So I propose to put some monies aside or set at least for our committee, being how broad this committee and its effects that it's doing, that at a minimum that we can have these meetings for this committee be on hybrid, so virtual. I'm not certain of the cost just doing that. Ideally, it would be have all committees as well, but at a minimum to have this one, at least from the feedback that I've been getting. So I'm not sure, Claricel, what kind of numbers does it take to do something like that?
I'm really not certain what it costs to have IT here and whatever other software. I don't know. We'd have to talk to them and get back to you.
All right, so I'd like to put on the table for a vote, if everybody's in agreement, have a motion to have the town then at least sponsor the virtual meetings, at least for us, if not all committees, but at least for us.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'll bring it up then for the next meeting, council meeting. Does that include your presentation?
Yes, so we would need to, I would like to present a motion to approve that the budget of the 780 and 1,500 that the subcommittee agreed to, so we can make that request to the town council at the next town meeting.
Have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Through the chair,
I'm sorry?
we went from the bike ride, the blasting, to the rally. Did Mr. Quadro have anything to add, reference any contact with FDOT?
Bring that back to me.
We spoke about the bike ride, the rally, the budget. But I did not hear anything about any contact with FDOT before Mr. Martinez spoke about the webpage. Do you have anything to add? I'd like to know if you had any contact with them.
There was a letter sent to them. And we haven't gotten any response back from them yet.
So we're talking about the rally though, for the venue for the rally.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I did not get to that one. I will work on that one. We're talking about the park and ride. Okay, I will work on that one tomorrow.
Steve, the reason I'm asking is because we're asking for funds, but we don't know what direction we're taking. So if you can respond to that.
Yeah, actually, let me clear that
Some
up.
clarity.
Yes, at the last meeting, we discussed the park and ride and the feasibility and the subcommittee pretty much agreed that Royal Oaks Park is a better location for what we want to do and bringing
Which
people.
park?
Royal Oaks Park on 87th.
Okay, thank you.
So that is the location we're asking. We have the second park as well. I'll make the request for the town on the availability of those two dates, but at the last meeting, we're looking at Royal Oaks Park at 87th Ave, and we believe that's a better location to bring people both here in Miami Lakes and outside the neighboring cities to come in.
Thank you for clarification. I just asked because it wasn't mentioned in the meetings, or it wasn't noted in the meetings,
Yeah,
in the
understood.
minutes. Thank you.
No, thanks for bringing it up. That's important. to know.
I did meet with Rene Garcia, and he is willing to join us for the bike ride and obviously the rally once that is further along. But so you're aware. And obviously, and Rep. Fabricio is agreeable on the 25th as well at 9 a.m. And as far as the legal review,
Legal review, we just haven't had the time to get to it. We're focusing on the bike ride right now. I'll try to coordinate the next. That's another thing we need to discuss. Maybe we'll discuss at the end of the meeting is setting up the next subcommittee meeting, confirming a date and time. I'll try to see if we can get some time in the next meeting, and also would like to coordinate with the town attorney, have him present at that meeting.
you're in luck. He's next to you.
Excuse me, I just got a call from somebody that's watching from home. If you could please turn off your microphones if you're not speaking. There's a little bit of a feedback from that. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes it then. All right, so then the next one is the status report from the approval from the items from the council. Clarissa, would you like to present this?
Yes, I shared a document with the points and the updates of where we're at now. I've shared it with all of you, and it's pretty much self-explanatory.
I think it'd be, I'd like to request in the meeting then with IT to go over these numbers and see how things are going about. I think we could simplify this and make it a more plausible solution if we can. It's been over 2 months now that we requested this, and the president was to receive that letter with firepower behind it. And obviously that didn't happen. So it's diluting our efforts. And that's what we need to avoid that. As far as the PDF form, the state modified the existing form and made it a fillable form, which is what we were asking. But we're also asking so that it be submitted electronically and not have to go through the process of downloading, printing, filling out manually. Or now we could do it electronically, but you still have to print it and email it. It was also requested that it be removed as it was on the app because it also hurt the cause on the phone app, that it was included in that. What's the status on that?
So like I detailed on that sheet, it is now embedded on the town's website as a PDF form. You fill it out when you visit the blasting concern page. You're able to save it onto a local file on your computer, open up your email, attach the file, and hit send. If you want a meeting with IT, I'll be happy to facilitate that. That is the best that we can do, given our resources here at the town. Again, if there's information that you have that can help us do as you have requested, then by all means, I'll be happy to put you together with IT.
Please.
And then regarding the link on our app, that was a motion that was passed by this committee to add it to our mobile app. If the body decides to remove it, then I need a motion, a second, and a majority to have it removed from our mobile app.
I'm sorry, but the motion was to complete the form and submit electronically, not add a link to a form that cannot be done on the phone. You cannot submit it electronically via the phone in that fashion. And that's why I was requested not to do it in that way. So it's actually, again, diluting our efforts on that.
Again, if it's the will of the committee to have that link removed from our mobile app, entertain a motion to remove, and I'll be happy to remove it from the mobile app.
Do they have the capacity of from the app emailing it directly?
If you download it to the files on your phone, yes.
All right, which you cannot and fill at the same time on a phone. That's where the issue is.
In order to fill it out on your phone and send it directly from your phone, you need to download the Adobe Acrobat app. You have to save the file from the CFO's website onto your files, go back to the Adobe app, open the file from Adobe app, fill it out, and then you're able to send it directly. It's multiple steps, but this day and age, I think allow the people all the options. That way, if somebody like Angel can figure it out, by all means, that's an option for him.
All right, floor's open for discussion, and what do you think of that?
I do not see, I understand where you're coming from, Miguel, but I do not understand why you would want to remove a mechanism where the residents at least can report something on the town app. Because just like they put a sentence or two, I use the app often. There's a blasting on such and such a place. There's, my house is, the concrete is falling on the column to the right. If it's a venue that they get to vent and they think that they're informing the town, which the town collects data, I just don't think we should take it away from them, because for some reason it gives them the mechanism to at least write what they feel. I mean, if they have a complaint, if they have, sometimes some of the employees do call you back. I get responses from things that are not in my area, but I might be walking around town.
Have you tried filling out the form on your phone?
I understand the form is very cumbersome. I understand exactly what you're talking about, the form, but I'm not talking, listen, if my students at the university want to do it, go at it. That's what they do best. But not all our residents are going to download, are going to upload, are going to complete it. What I don't want to do is take away a mechanism that they might have an avenue to at
You're
least.
misconstruing what we had requested, though.
No, I know it, but I know what you requested. I haven't.
Okay, so what we had requested was that an application be embedded into the town's app where it enables the user that will fill out the form and email at the same time. It's encouraging the way that the state had created the page where you have to download it, fill it out, and all through your phone and email it, which I find it very difficult. Whereas if we end it there, then the application embedment is not going to be looked at. So it's not a matter of removing it from the app per se. It's removing the manner in which it's being done currently.
Miguel, but the town's told us they can do it numerous times. I think out of everyone here, I'm probably one of the oldest members sitting here. I understand what you want. They can provide it. I just don't want to take a tool away from our residents for them to be able to at least file a complaint, post a complaint. That's all I'm asking. Don't take away an extra tool from them. That's all. They're not going to be able to do the form like you want it. It's that we're going 6 months with the same form. They're not going to be able to do it. She's telling you this. Unless I'm missing something, she's telling you it can't be done unless you go through all the steps.
So they could do it. Okay,
Is there a cost associated with maintaining this PDF up?
minimal.
So if the
There's
cost is-
no cost on putting it on our website. Zero cost.
or on the mobile app or on
Zero cost.
Okay, so if there's no cost associated, then I would have to say it makes sense to keep it open while we may try to look for an alternative source. Once that alternative source is found, then we remove the
No,
more
absolutely,
cumbersome version.
absolutely. But
It
the
should
intention
stay
was
up
to
for
have the
now.
alternative, not the way it's done is the point.
So just to clarify, in meshing together our mobile app with a PDF form cannot be done. There's an API, and this is beyond, my level of expertise because I'm no IT expert. But there's an API that needs to be built that could be tens of thousands of dollars just to create an API to sign this form. In my opinion, if a resident is suffering from blasting damages and they fail to report it, then it's on them. We can have copies of the form here. They can come by, fill it out. We'll be happy to scan it and email it on their behalf. That's another mechanism to do it. But what you're asking cannot be done without investing tens of thousands of dollars in doing. And I don't, you'd have to ask the council if they have the appetite to go in that direction.
Claire, so I could show you on our website. It doesn't cost that much, and we've done it.
Miguel, with all due respect, our mobile app is a mobile app that's created as a CRM tool. We can't do whatever we want with it. We can't manipulate it. It's a standard software that is used with communities throughout the country. It's not something that the town developed. It's something that we purchased, and they kind of put a little makeup so that it looks like it's the town's with the town's branding. Beyond what we have done and what we are doing with the mobile app and this PDF form, we can't go any further than that.
Miguel, if I may, if you believe that, I'm looking at it right now. You click it, you click report blasting, it takes you to the blasting website, right, the CFO's website, and then it brings you the PDF. Can't really do much with it on your phone unless you have the proper applications. It's better than nothing though, right?
Absolutely.
But do you think something like, instead of going to the CFO's website, it goes to a PDF we create that has this and creates instructions on what exactly to do with this and why it's important to submit it, instead of just going to a blank form, might make more sense. We create a PDF that says, this is how you should report blasting. This is where it needs to go. The second page is it, print it out, email it to this. This is why it's important to report it. Something like that might be more useful than just a link, basically.
Agreed. As I mentioned, we've done it already. My group has done it, and I'll be happy to show it. It has to be entertained, but I need the meeting with the IT department, and we'll show them how it's done.
I don't think they're going to create it so they can be submitted on the app, but I think it might be beneficial. I'm happy to open it for discussion to create a PDF that report that link goes to, where it has a copy of the form we're supposed to fill out, but that's the second page. The first page is, here is exactly what you need to do right now to report it, and make sure you report it because this is why it's important. Sort of like a branding and an education, blasting awareness in the app, right? And then the form next to it, because right now all it does is take you to a form. We might as well put some education on the first page and then put
I agree.
the application, the report in the
The
second
other
page.
problem is having a form that's already pre-filled is it needs their address, so you can't do that per se. But again, we've done what we're talking about. We've already done it, and it can be done. I'll leave it at that.
Miguel, just remember the town that the software they're using does have proprietary rights. There's a lot of attorneys in here. We don't own the application. It is shared by many other municipalities. I've done this for years. You can't, this town, just because we're the town of Miami Lakes, we can't say, well, now we want this. You just can't do that. I think, I understand that you do it on your site. You own and run that site. That is not a proprietary site owned by the town and shared by other municipalities. I think they've done the best that they can. I just don't want to exclude it from that site. That's all I'm saying.
It's not to be excluded, it's to be modified. But that's fine. However you wish, put a motion if you want to leave it or entertain modifying it.
I mean, I would make a motion to modify it, and instead of going straight to the CFO's application, it goes to well, I guess I have to ask if it's possible, could the link just go to a file instead of it goes to a file that we create, and we include the application, but we put a little bit of awareness. I mean, thousands of people have this app. Let's make it a tool for us to advocate. That's
The
what
process you're talking about is exactly what I'm saying. The difference is that the PDF that you're talking about, the form pre-filled, is your actual email. And it does the same thing that we're talking about. So it is that. It is just that. All right. So moving along then, we'll go to new business. I think what, I don't know if that's what everybody's waiting for is what I had, I came up with a presentation, if you will. I don't know if Clarissa, you want to share my screen? All right. Here to share screen. All right. All right, I want to preface this, make sure we're clear. I'm not an engineer. I have a background in architecture, I have a degree in architecture. I've been a contractor for many years, the vice president of a general contracting firm, and obviously been involved in blasting for quite some time. I'm going to base this on experience, but I am not in any position to identify the cause of the current situations that we're in of the collapses of the building in Surfside and the partial roof collapse of the apartment building here close by. However, it is imperative, and as I'm always pushing for, is that education and information that we understand the who, what, where, and why. So tonight I want to present to you guys the concepts of building failures. So just to share with you a little story, one of my first projects as in contracting, I was I guess the office liaison, if you will, with a job site. We were re-roofing a large building's roof, 12 stories up, and I was on the roof, and I started getting dizzy. The roofing foreman came, he noticed it, recognized it, and he actually called the crane and had me lowered via the crane. He asked me if I had breakfast, and I'd never eat breakfast. So I said, no, I don't eat breakfast. Why? He says, well, when your potassium drops in altitude, you get dizzy. And a few projects ago, they had a guy, one of their workers, walking along the parapet, got dizzy, slipped, and he fell several stories down and landed in the kettle. The kettle, if you're aware, is where they heat the tar up, and that's where they coat the roof with. So the question then becomes, did the fall kill him? Or did falling in a kettle of tar kill him? Or just not having breakfast kill him? Simple as that. With a combination of all three. So I mention these things because in reality, in a case like that, you can pinpoint any one of those three, but it's a combination of all three. That's the case in buildings when they fail. So I've been spoken to that it was water damage, it was this, it was that. but never as a combination of items. I assure you it's a combination of things. So tonight we're going to talk about in concrete construction, the three factors that are the enemy of concrete. It's water intrusion, spalling, and vibration. And in Surfside, in the case of Surfside, is the example of the pile driving. These are the items that are focused by the county. If you can reiterate that. So from, at least from my gathering of what I've seen. We then had obviously the fall from for the apartment, the partial roof collapse. And this, we're addressing it as to such. So if you're aware, concrete is actually porous. I learned recently that the reason the pores exist is that the concrete itself it's an emulsion, and it's a chemical reaction that happens between Portland cement, water, and aggregate. The water molecules, the reaction itself is formed, and the water that remains after the reaction, the water needs to be removed from the concrete itself. As it evaporates and wicks out, it leaves literally molecular, or not molecular, but tiny, let's just say, pores, little holes, and they create tunnels through the concrete mass. That actually creates portals, if you will, and it allows the porosity of the concrete to exist. You've heard the terms, or at least up north we have in basements, where the natural gases that percolate through the ground, methane as an example, enters the basements. This is how. So in our case here, we have from water vapor, moisture, and whatnot coming through, and this is why the water barrier is imperative. Down here, I guess you guys can relate to the swimming pools. The swimming pool structure is made out of concrete, and then you have a product to seal it, the gunite or the tile, whichever. So in the Surfside building, it has been witnessed that there's been a lot of water intrusion. And there's videos and photographs of the parking garage, the parking deck, and you'll see that the floor is wet. Around the pool, below the pool, the floor is wet. So that's suspect. Why is that significant? It's significant because the concrete is actually a composite structure. It's made of concrete and steel. The two components together fight against the properties that structures are dealing with. Now I have a piece of rebar here. You guys, I don't know if you ever seen it. Let me pass it around. That is actually a hoop. It's actually from my home when I rebuilt my home. And in the photograph on the image on the screen, the perpendicular, basically you see the corner pieces, that's actually that member that we're passing around now at larger size, obviously. This is a parking garage structure. And in spalling, what happens is the moisture and water gets wicked through wicked in through the concrete, and it attacks the steel that's inside of it. The steel then begins to rust. As it rusts, it flakes and delaminates. The delamination of the rust is strong enough to break the concrete, and the concrete pops out, literally, and you lose the structural integrity because the concrete, given its strength, is no longer there. Further, when it's getting worse, the steel then deteriorates significantly, that there's nothing structurally remaining, like in this image here. These things were witnessed in the, I know in Surfside, I don't know to the extent, but I know they had some spalling. And again, you'll see it further in this presentation. Now, the other problem is the pile driving that went on the building next door. A pile driver, if you're not aware, there are not countless, there are a large number of piles that are actually used in general in construction, depending on what it is, a bridge or a seawall, a high rise. However, in our area, what's typically done in sandy conditions where the soil is not stable, they drive these piles, these large columns, into the ground until they reach a solid strata. Typically, these columns are 80 feet deep or 80 feet long, so they drive them down into the ground at 80 feet. Each blow of this hammer that you're witnessing is hitting about 30,000 pounds of force onto that pile. The pile on the ground level, at the strata level, is 10,000 pounds. So I included on the agenda tonight is a study of how these pile drivers damage adjacent concrete. It is known, How it damages it is through energy waves being produced by the pile. Now, there is heaving, which is the soil being pushed sideways, laterally, and the vibration, which is produced by the pile actually contacting the ground or the strata in this case. The buildings, the high-rise buildings, which you'll see shortly, they drive a series of piles in, and then they connect the top of the piles at surface level with a concrete pad. It's called a pile cap. That is actually the base for a building to be built on top of. So I'm not going to get into structures and how bending moment and shear for them. I won't bore you guys with that. But I just want you to realize, to get these things into the ground like a hammer and nail, the amount of force that is applied. Now, in the report that's in the agenda, there's a few key items on there, which I highlighted. Now, on the top, the report is on the left side. On the top right of the page, you're going to see the condition, which is similar to what is experienced on the shorelines here. And let me just preface, this report is a study of pile driving and at different locations and their effects. So they did 7 different locations. That's what the chart is showing. But the number one site, or site number 1, is a 14-inch square pile at 80 feet of length. It's rated at 40,000 pounds of force that it can resist. You can see it on the chart there. And it's using loose to dense sands to silty sands with shale. So in the report, I have some Sunday reading, but in the report it specifically says that and I highlighted it there. It says typically the transferred energy is about 30 to 40% of the hammer rated energy. An average assumed rated energy of 30,000 foot-pounds thus results in a transfer energy of approximately 10,000 foot-pounds. So that hammer blow is 30,000 pounds per hit, and it hits the ground 10,000 pounds. Now, that shows or is proving that in settlement monitoring in this report, that an adjacent railroad track, now we can imagine the size and capacity, the weight bearing of train tracks. And they put monitoring devices on an adjacent train track. That train track actually was what brought the equipment in to do this test. And they note that the movements range from a 1/2 inch of heave, which is sideways, to 3 inches of settlement. So you bend train track 3 inches by an energy wave produced by a pile driver. It's on the report. Further in the report, they have the case study confirmed previous results that indicate settlement occurs due to pile driving within loose sands at distance of up to the pile length, 80 feet. When a number of piles are to be driven for a particular project, the cumulative settlement could be significant. Measured values of heave were about 20% of the absolute value of measured settlement near a pile, while at a distance greater than about 20 feet, values of heave and settlement were nearly equal. So we got movement at the distance of the length of the pile at 80 feet. I believe I was told that the Surfside, as example, that the adjacent building was about 100 feet away from it. So it's arguable that this has effects on it. Now, in construction, when we build, or any building, especially in concrete reinforced structures, you're dealing with 3 primary stresses. Compressive stress, which is basically an elephant standing on a slab. You're crushing the slab. The slab has to withhold that. Concrete is excellent in compression. Shear stress, which is pulling side to side, like scissors, or the scissors cut a paper using shear. So it's pulling in opposite directions. And tensile stress, which is in opposite direction of the same body. So it's like a rope. If you're on a swing, that rope, the tension that is applied to that rope. So remember, these 3 forces is what we build with you're fighting these forces, put it that way. If you recall at the last presentation, the 4 different types of energy that was been recorded of the mining blast. has a payload of these 4 energy types. Each wave, you notice expansion and compression for the P wave. S wave is like a ripple. The Raleigh wave is rolling, and a love wave. Notice the arrows on the love wave are in opposite directions, the same as what construction we're trying to and shear fighting after. The P wave, that's pulling as the compression moves, expands and contracts, is that last wave, last force of tensile stress. And with the compressive stress, which is the weight of the building. Now, why is this significant? In the rebar, concrete is in compression. It provides strength and compression. Rebar provides it in tension. The composite of the 2 materials is what makes up construction. Rebar, the dimples in the rebar that you have there are applied forces, and those dimples is what holds the rebar inside the concrete. If you introduce vibration to a composite structure, reinforced concrete, you will break the bond between the 2. If you break the bond between the 2, what happens is the outermost size of that rebar becomes the diameter of the vessel in which the steel is inside the concrete. So there is no more of the forces of those dimples acting on it. It's a steel tube in a perfect hose, let's say. It is the same principle as a screw into a bolt into a nut rather, with the threads, same principle. So when we get to Champlain Condo, if we look at the picture on the left, that is the tower that remained standing at the end. You'll notice the top edge where the roof is. Underneath the slab of the roof, you'll see lines perpendicular to the building. Those were the chambers in which the rebar were residing, and they're stripped out, okay? You'll notice that the next floor, the top floor, in this case where the bunk beds are, you'll notice the picture on the bottom right corner, I zoomed in on it, and you'll see the rebar has been stripped from the concrete and is just hanging. They're pulled out of the slab. There is no bond between the slab and the concrete. Okay, so again, these are concepts. Now,
So you're saying that they were forced out?
they're forced out, right.
They were forced out.
In the parking garage, now I read a report, and again, I won't get into that, but there was issues with the pool and how the collapse started at the pool location. The pool location was on top of a deck, and adjacent to the deck and surrounding that deck was the parking garage. So the pool body was actually inserted into the next layer of parking, the parking level. Now, you'll notice the column, it's marked parking, that's a parking space number, 72. Now you'll see the rebar hanging. The slab was ripped out, or the rebar was ripped out of that slab. The slab slid down the columns, the entire slab, and this is what they call pancaking, and it just lays down the columns to the next floor. Now that the slab itself is kind of warped and whatnot. It's actually the cars that are underneath it as the slab laid down. But you're seeing the rebars are ripped out. Now, moving on closer to home, we have a roof collapse. It's confirmed, obviously, that the building was in disrepair and had a lot of issues, water issues and whatnot. However, we need to understand what happened here, construction-wise. This is called the Mansard Truss. I call it, layman's terms, we call it a half truss. In this particular case, you could see the truss was sitting on the parapet or the roof edge. How they do that is there's a clip angle. It looks like a horseshoe, wide horseshoe that gets anchored to the top of the roof and fastened to each truss. You could see the clip angle. If you look at the bottom, let's see if I have the mouse here. Yeah. See that right there? There's the clip angle. The problem is here is this thing, it's an overturning moment, it's called. This is rotating away from the roof. And you know it's rotating because this member is no longer perpendicular. It's at an angle. The gap is larger on the top than it is on the bottom. So this area of the roof is about to fall as well. it has separated from its clip angle. Now, there are multiple hypotheses why the clip angle is in question, including that the wood was rotted, there was water damage to the roof. Okay. But frankly, I don't see this wood. By the coloration alone, I don't see much damage as far as water damage. It turns black, it turns to rot. Now, again, I'm not an inspector on this site. I'm not claiming anything, so we have to be clear. This is only my observations. On a cantilevered roof like this, the forces are the greatest on this end by default. If you remembered, taking a tire wrench off a car and you apply a force and you're not strong enough to take the bolt off, you put a pipe on it and you extend, it's called the moment arm, and you extend the length of the arm and it adds more torque, more force to bring this down. Pull out is here. Now, why is that significant? Because if you look at the other picture, that's a balcony of the same building. And what do we see there? Spalling. But spalling is only happening, at least at this location, at the end of the balcony. If you introduce vibration to concrete, and we have a cantilevered effect such as this, the vibrations are the highest movement-wise at its end. It's fixed at one end, and it's flexing at the other. Concrete doesn't take movement. It doesn't flex. Steel does, and breaks the concrete. So that is an observation on this location of problem. So again, I'm looking at concepts for you guys. Now, what's the big deal? As we know, this building is in range of the blast energy effects. If you recall, the pile driver is hitting the pile at 30,000 pounds of force. I've included an actual activity report from White Rock that was submitted to the state in 2017. This is an official report from the state. I zoomed in on the top portion, and you're going to see the date there is 2017, August 16, 2017. The number of holes, what they drill, is 90 holes. Each hole is 4.5 inches wide. The wet hole, why is that significant? 82 feet. But the hole depth is 84 feet. Why? Because it's 82 feet inside the Biscayne Aquifer. Remember, the water table is just below grade here. So within 2 feet of them drilling from the surface, they hit water and drilled down another 82 feet. They did, the space that they blasted in this particular case is 17 by 18 feet. And they used 557 pounds of explosive for a total of 50,130 pounds. 50,130 pounds as opposed to 10,000 pounds at Surfside. Now, the other issue that we have is you're in water. That's the water depth, 82 feet. Do we know the density of water? Is 1. Water is the most densest material that exists. The sand is 0.5. So why is that significant? Is that it transfers energy without decay. It doesn't deteriorate over distance. So it is arguable that this building was receiving energy waves. Now, what's the difference between a high-rise and a residential structure? The biggest thing that we design here, especially in South Florida, is called lateral loading. It's the wind against the hurricane. In high-rise construction, you're going to notice the bottom portion of this diagram, these are piles. That's under grade. We have the pile cap, which is a concrete slab that I mentioned to you guys. And then on top of that, they build the columns and floor slabs to go up above grade and make each level of the building. The size of the arrow is the significance of the wind pressure. So obviously the pressure is higher, the higher you go up the building. The reaction. Now this is called a load path, which is how a building carries each force as a response. So theoretically, just for argument's sake, we could say that the wind force at this corner of the building hits this corner, and we split the force by 50%. 50% goes down, is carried by the column, and 50% goes perpendicular through the slab to the next column, where it splits again and continues deteriorating the force until it all gets absorbed and carried down to the load to the foundation. Okay, this is load path. This is what structural engineers calculate out. Now, we know from the previous presentation that wind forces acting on a structure, and this is again general, but we'll use specifics of home because I have a sloped roof. As the wind blows on against the side of a structure, it applies forces on it. It applies direct force to the wall and a perpendicular force, a component of it, to the roof because of the slope. As it goes over the roof, it creates a negative force, a suction. Again, this is the same as how an airplane flies, that the wings get pulled up into the air. But what's it doing structurally? It's actually on the bottom diagram pushing, and the house is resisting the force. In essence, the response would be in this manner, where we have some similar like a deck of cards leaning over. This is the response of a reinforced structural wall, not a post or a column. So we went over the vibrations and how the energy effects hit this. Each one of these height of arches is basically a hammer blow from that pile driver. So we have recorded and a computer model response of the actual recorded energy wave to a reinforced structure. You're going to notice at the bottom level, as we mentioned prior, that line, which is your floor slab, and this creates a hinge connection, it's called, in force. So think of the balcony if you turn it vertical. The top edge of that balcony, which in this case would be where the trusses are for our homes, receive the most vibration, most movement. But the stress is at the bottom because that has to withstand the forces of this vibration, the reaction. So we see here, and this home is about 32 years old, and you're going to see the effects of the line of the floor slab along the bottom of this wall. You're going to see step cracking, which is a shear force. So that's evidence of seismic activity. You're also going to see, if you look further down this wall, each tie column, each structural component of this wall is delineated. However, what do you see on the bottom corner of this wall? Anybody know what that is? Through the crack. That crack, where it's dark, is moisture. Water is wicking in through that crack. Okay, the waterproofing of this structure, this home, has failed, and now water is entering it. That's mold, what you're seeing. The stains, the water stains happen, and we know then what happens when water attacks rebar. So once the water wicks into this location, there is a tie column at this location by standard construction means, and it hits the rebar. I don't need to tell you what it does to rebar. This diagram is what keeps me up at night. This is the reason I'm here today. Okay, this is a reinforced masonry wall with a response to a wind load, which how the structure is, what is the force it's responding to? It's the hinge effect at the bottom of this balcony. This balcony was turned vertical. And what are we seeing? Complete failure of this wall. That is what I believe why, what we're experiencing here and what we're going to continue to witness if we don't do something, if something doesn't happen. So again, hopefully that helps you guys. The intent was to show you some concepts. You have any questions? No. My highlighted copy? You have it. That's part of the agenda. You want my notes? Anything else? I'm pretty much, I've completed my presentation of what you guys, what I wanted to share with you guys. We need to dispel some untruths and learn facts. You're seeing it. So this is structures. This is plain physics, the science behind the construction. I'm not getting into the calculations and the math involved and all that. We leave the engineers for that. I'm here just for the concepts. And the concept's enough to scare me. So this is where we're at.
From what you've seen here in this area, the majority of the homes that you've seen, do they have this? Do you see this concept being laid out? Do you see these concepts being reproduced more and more as you go along and you see these damages?
The picture of that,
See these homes.
that picture of the beige house with the cracks is my neighbor's house 2 days ago. Yes, I see it. I repaired it from my own house. And the repairs, the only we can do, quick repair, not a non-structural repair, is the waterproofing to prevent further damage. There is another study that shows that type of damage deteriorates structural integrity by 25%. That scares me. So if a hurricane were to come, I said it before, a catastrophic event will be blamed on a hurricane. But I applaud the county that they took down the building in light of the hurricane, which it wouldn't take much to actually move that building. And obviously it would cause more loss of the rescuers. We need to take further action on our behalf now.
I could tell you, I have those exact step cracks on my house, where you see them. Actually, they're more noticeable even at night sometimes, if you point a light at them. I guess one thing is, I think there's something that maybe we miss on and we should focus on, is that it's not necessarily a matter of your house falling down out of nowhere. It's we're weakening the structure. So when that hurricane comes with 100 and 140 mile per hour winds, where especially new houses, 2000 and newer, are 100% supposed to be okay. At least they're designed to be okay, right? In a category 4 nature. But
the
maybe
newer
they're not.
homes are 150 mile an hour winds is their design pressure that they're constructed against. Older homes 120. However, the issue becomes is the structural integrity has been jeopardized. Now, Hurricane Andrew was sustained winds. It actually broke the machine that was measuring it. It broke at 250 miles an hour. It was a twister that ripped them off, and that was over at the Air Force Base, at the Air Force Base in Homestead. But sustained winds was 150. Nonetheless, at 120, which is I'm not afraid of 120 mile an hour wind. Take 25% off of that, and I'm scared. Okay, so that's what scares me.
Right, and I think maybe we can do a little bit of better job. Not that you always mention this actually, but both as a town and as a board, and making it clear that we're not some people saying, because some people will say, "Oh, have any buildings fell down?" Well, now we have.
Right? No.
But that's not the critical point.
No, it's not. Yeah, let's reiterate that. You're absolutely correct. This is a perfect storm of chain of events to make something happen. It's like winning the lottery. Am I going to win the lottery? I highly doubt it. But somebody wins it. I don't want to be the lottery winner in this case. And that's why we need to prevent all these things. We need to be aware of what's going on, and we need to mitigate the amount of damage that is potential. And the simple thing is the waterproofing. Again, it's a combination of items that causes failure, not a single item. So if you see damage, you see a crack per se, waterproof it, seal it. Let's close it up. Don't get the water to get in there. We need to minimize this. It's not a matter of that, I've been told, oh, I'm going to go home and kick the block out on the wall and it's going to come out. No, I didn't say that. And I'm not saying that. But we need to realize structurally what is potential and it is occurring. We're witnessing it now. I've been saying this for years, actually, and that it's happening. I don't like to say I told you so.
Following up on that, Last meeting, we discussed, Rep Fabricio was interested in trying to get FIU to help with some sort of study. Do you know if he's had any contact since then?
I went to FIU myself. My wife and I accompanied me, and we met with the engineering department. They requested a written request, which I did. I then sent a follow-up email a few days after with images and reports. I haven't had a response from them yet, but I have a feeling that they were amazed and it was an eye-opener, put it that way. They are working on the Champlain Tower investigation. So he says, we're tied up with this. I said, these go hand in hand, and here's why. So that's where we're at.
Thanks.
Quick question, any more of these activity reports from White Quarry, or is the most updated one 2017?
The most updated one is 2017. They stopped, I believe it was November, was the last time they submitted to the state. I have my thoughts.
Is it not required to submit these reports anymore
It's only required if it's requested.
by the state?
Correct.
So I think that's another issue we should bring up with the representative is why isn't the state requesting these reports? And we can have our own thoughts on that, but.
The last law passed by Manny Diaz, I believe, if I recall right, it was being monitoring regularly with that. I haven't seen any of those reports though. And it was supposed to be created a website as they used to have where this is updated. I haven't seen that either.
Right. So a follow-up with Senator Diaz's office might be most
Yes,
useful right now.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Is the issue that they don't need to submit any report, or that they don't need to publicly release such a report? They still need to submit a report of each of their blasting activities under the statute, don't they?
By my recollection, the law previously had, Dade County law had them required to announce the blast, post the blast. So they actually had a calendar online where that was all posted. The state requires them to keep a record of each blast and provide it if requested. Now, previously in 2017, they used to submit it. But because of that law is the way it is, they took it to heart and they don't submit voluntarily.
Okay. So it's not something that we can do a Freedom of Information Act or anything like
If
that?
you would have to request it from the state then requests it from them. That can be done.
Okay. I think that's something that this board should take an initiative as citizens to constantly be the ones making those requests.
I suppose, I don't know. It's a good thought.
Okay, I live in the area where he lives in Miami Garden Drive. And
Could you have your name and address for the record,
Oh,
please?
okay. My name is Jeronimo Montes, 7848 Northwest 188th Lane, 33015. My wife is from Peru, and every year I go to Lima and Arequipa, and always is earthquakes, you know? And people get scared, and they tell me, hey, don't you get scared? What for? I live in Miami. We have a blasting every day, much stronger than this. You know, I mean, and that is a reality. I'm on my parking space and my backyard is all cracked and all that. And compared with the earthquakes, unless there is one, 9, 10, the one that we hear every day, where all the house shakes, I mean, is something that is real. And I've been talking to Miguel for a long time, and I back him up because I agree with him. He's an architect, I'm an aeronautical engineer. My problems are on the air, mainly. But I agree because I live in a house where I have these blasting, earthquakes, blasting every day. sometimes very strong, and I see comments of people that say, "Hey, did you see that? Did you see?" Almost every day, you know. So it's something that, unfortunately, nothing we can do. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if there's nothing we can do. We're doing it, so.
As you know, Miguel, Serenity Point wants to do, part of the bike ride. So I went back to them Friday, as a matter of fact. And I talked to my board. I had no idea about this. And they seriously want to take some action against White Quarry. Just putting it in the public perspective right now, and they will do something. I had no idea. I was clueless. And I talked to the president again and the vice president, and I got to go to the next meeting and so forth and so on. And I was like, what? And I says, yes, we got severe problems in other areas too. And something's cooking. And it's not just Serenity Point, it's West Lakes in that area. And I guess I'll fill you in next time. That's what's going on. But they want to take serious action. And I'm a member there. I live in Serenity Point, and they're really serious. From what I understand, they've contacted a variety of representatives, the governor, down the road. So
Have them
I'll
join
keep
us.
you, yeah, exactly.
Join us.
Yeah, keep you posted.
Just to piggyback on that point, I did bring the bike ride up to Satori, the board. Mind you, we were probably going on our third hour of our meeting due to the other issue going on next door to Satori that is of critical importance right now. But so they were kind of like neutral on the issue, that we didn't really take a vote on it. But whenever we schedule the next subcommittee meeting, I'll try to have a chat with them prior to that in order to see if they've formulated an opinion or not. I don't see why they would oppose, honestly.
Hector Alemán, 8442 Northwest 166 Terrace, Miami Lakes. Has the state set up a limit, the bare minimum limit of vibration that will not be considered to cause structural damages? And if so, who is monitoring, if they're monitoring that, and with the companies and those companies not exceeding those limits? And I guess that's part of the report that you all have mentioned, that it would be prudent to request from the state.
The state legal limit, PPV, peak particle velocity, is 0.05 inches per second.
Mm-hmm.
That's a linear measurement of the energy wave traveling.
Mm-hmm.
They are well under that limit. Typically 0.1,
Mm-hmm.
especially now. The state does not record or monitor air blast, which is the air pressure wave that's being created. We discovered that the air blast is damaging our interior structures, plaster, drywall. There are reports, recorded reports, that 0.175, I believe it is where the threshold of plaster cracks.
Mm-hmm.
So in the previous body of the Blasting Advisory Board gave recommendations to lower the legal limit to 0.7. Rep. Fabricio put in his bill to lower to 0.15, which is still higher than what they're blasting at currently, lower than 0.5, obviously. And that was shot down. It wasn't even heard in the first committee. So they never even heard to debate the bill. So they are well aware of it. The state is well aware of it. And the laws have been written. If you understand how the energy wave travels, which is what the slide I had was from a previous presentation we did here, the propagation of that energy wave and all the properties of the actual wave are disregarded. That's a problem. So there's a science behind all of that, and it's not being accounted for.
Yeah, because I know that that's a very important thing, to make sure that those limits are maintained at or below, because obviously the blasting will somehow continue because of the industry and what they want and what they need. But, that's something that is important to monitor, which is a good point that you all brought.
Yeah, legally they have to have a certified device within a mile at the nearest structure. That's the law. So it's currently monitored by the miners. They hire an engineering firm and they submit that report when requested to the state. Under the law under Diaz, they could not have, it had to be a third party basically, not somebody that's being hired by the miners, which I think is significant. But again, I haven't seen anything of that.
That last part about the third party, that is a bill. That's not law.
That's a law.
Or it is
Yeah.
law. So right now there are unaffiliated third parties monitoring the blasts.
I have no idea. We hope.
So that, you know, the only reason I bring this up is it reminds me of the 737 MAX disaster. The FAA delegated the quality control to Boeing. Boeing was overseeing Boeing, which makes no sense whatsoever. Is this kind of the same thing where we're asking White Rock Quarry to monitor White Rock Quarry? If
That's
that's the case,
exactly-
then it's absurd, and that's something that we need to advocate to change.
Well, that's what the Diaz bill proposed, and that's what it came to. Not only that, the company that White Rock hires is renting office inside the mine itself. All right. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Grab a mic, please.
Hi, I'm Gabby Malares. I live in PSN, 8111 Northwest 181 Street, Hialeah, Florida, 33015. I may be totally in the wrong place asking this, but again, I live in PSN. I was interested in the blasting, but as well, I've been hearing and seeing all this on social media about the Mount Sinai on 87th and Miami Lakes Drive. Is this the correct place to ask anything about it? Is there a different? It's another meeting. Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry. Out of place.
All right. I think the last item that we needed to speak was for the date for the subcommittee.
Right, correct. Can we get some dates within, I guess we would like to, we have the next town council meeting is August 10th? Okay, so, I mean, we have the budget, but we want something before August 10th. Well,
Shouldn't we also check with council's office to see so that they
yeah,
can
we
be?
want to try to have you attend and coordinate with that. Well, I guess if you can give me the next 2 weeks availability. Third
Excuse me.
week if a must.
Doesn't the budget need to be approved by the main?
Right, yeah,
Board.
no, we have the budget approved. So that will go to the council on August 10th. I'll make sure the minutes are out quickly so to get you organized what exactly was approved. But that'll
Thank
go
you.
out August 10th. At what time on the 29th? Okay,
The 29th, you said?
so that'd be next week, the 29th on Thursday. Subcommittee, correct. Right, it'd be continued discussion on the bike ride, update on the rally, and then we'd also try to, I think, given everything we've done, we'll probably actually have time this time for the legal review. That's why, is your calendar okay? Okay. Anyone else, especially the attorneys on the board, want to make sure you're here?
I was only just gonna say if we're coordinating with council's office, then the legal review part should just be the first item on the agenda,
Yeah.
just to respect their time.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right, everyone available? Good, okay. Yeah, 29th, you good?
So 29 at 7 p.m.
7 PM, 29. I'll send you the agenda like tonight, probably.
Would it behoove us to have the police present that day?
I guess I'll ask the town, do you think you should be present or should we coordinate a meeting regarding the route? Because the subcommittee and now here, well, I guess we didn't actually discuss the route today here. If you want to bring that up quickly. I mean, we have a good idea what the route is. I don't know that's something we should discuss at a meeting with him for one of us, or something at an actual public meeting.
Yeah, so I think you should submit a route that can be shared with them, because he doesn't make the decision on his own. He has a team with the sergeant and the lieutenant. They meet and discuss. So if you could submit the route prior, I'll make sure to share with him and have you any feedback or input
Okay.
For this meeting.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Can we post that route on the blasting website so the residents know what? Okay.
Yeah, what we'll do is, I mean, the route we have right now is starting at Royal Oaks Park and going down 87th, then down Commerce Way and up 82nd and back up, loop back around on 170th.
Well, we were going to go into their community. And
Right,
I don't know what street.
we're going to try to go into Satori, right? Then we'll go through, we're not going to stay down 87th. We're actually going to try to go into Satori and then go through Serenity Point and those neighborhoods, then back around, and then up 82nd, 170th back to Royal Oaks Park. That was what was approved, but I guess the next step is to get that approved by the police department. Then we can get it done.
Did Satori approve us going to the
Yeah,
community?
so that's what I was saying before, that I presented it to the board. They were kind of lukewarm on the idea because their heads were in the other issue with the hospital. So they weren't really ready to make a decision on it. But like I said, I'll try to have a decision prior to the next
Oh,
meeting.
you anticipate getting approved?
I anticipate it only because I know Satori to be wanting to be a leader in this. But, you know, I can't speak on behalf of the entire board without getting a formal vote.
Right. So that's proposed. If not, then
Just go straight.
we're confident, but if not, we'd just go straight to the next neighborhood, which is not a private community. Obviously, Satori is private. We need to get their authority to come in. But Satori is pretty critical for us because our understanding is there is damage there, and those are brand new homes. Nothing there is over 4 years old. So it's pretty. It's a pretty important community to get some backing from us. So what I'll do is I'll get that route basically mapped out, submit it to the town. So then at the next meeting, the town can provide comments, but on the route.
Have you guys had complaints about this as well, or?
Every time we have so there's the HOA and then there's the community itself. The community has a Facebook group where we all communicate and, you know, share nice pictures and all that stuff. Yeah. And so right now I'm referring to the Facebook page that's unaffiliated with the association itself. The board does not run it at all, but every time there's a blast, you can do like a 3, 2, 1, and boom, here comes the post. And that's on almost every single Miami Lakes page. But in Satori, it's a common thread. You feel the blast, wait for it. Here comes the message, and it's simple. We're very close to the epicenter. I live in a 2-story townhouse, which you would think is a sturdy structure, and I moved in July of 2019. That was when it was completed. You know, I'm the first owner, and I'm on my 2nd-story home office working from home, and I can literally feel this oscillating motion. It's 5 to 10 seconds after the initial. First, you hear and feel the rumble, and then you get that little oscillating motion when you're up in an upper story, and it's kind of crazy.
This is response, it's called.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so I guess that nothing else to be shared today, this evening? Have a motion to adjourn then?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.